Joburg's hottest breakfast show.
Hello, Tim.
Sasha, greetings.
Yes, greetings. How are you, my friend?
Fine, how are you doing?
Yeah, we are terrific. Sorry to get you up so early. We know Cape Town doesn't really surface until about 11.
Yeah, don't worry, I'm just about waking up, just about.
Ah, fantastic. Tim, it's great to speak to you again. I think the last time we chatted, I don't know if it was the second or third book that you had written. I think it was Everything in the World is Still Cuck or something.
Yes, it was one of the KAK books, Excuse Our Language. It was a few years ago.
It was a couple of years ago. And now you've done 50, this is the second in the 50 People series, is that right? Or third?
It's actually the third, but
Yes.
it's the second Stuffed Up in the 50 People series. So the first one was 50 People Who Stuffed Up South Africa, that came out quite a few years ago.
Yeah.
And did pretty well, actually. And then there was 50 Flippin' Brilliant South Africans, which was a bit of the yin and the yang. And now we've got 50 People Who Stuffed Up the World.
Which is, listen, I've only read parts of it, Tim. But no, first of all, congratulations to you and Alexander on it, because it's really, really brilliantly researched. I must say, wow, this took a long time.
Thank you very much, Sasha. Yes, it was a serious proposition, this book. It's actually been in the planning for several years. I would say actually 3 or 4 years. And we wanted to get an international publishing deal on it. So that was one reason why we spent a while putting it together, and we did, which was great. It's published in the UK and Australia and elsewhere. And the actual research and writing process took a lot longer than the first 2 books, put it that way.
Yeah, I mean, just reading on the few that I have gone through, because the wonderful thing is you can pick and choose how you want to read it. You know, it's not like a novel. You can, decide, I want to read about Pol Pot. And you get a really great history lesson about who these people were. And then, of course, yours and Alex's sort of satire and brilliance included.
Yeah, well, the point of it, we felt, was to try and get a really good balance of recent history. So we're believers in the idea that you've got to know a little bit about history so that you can understand the present and so that you can plan for the future. If you don't know about history, how are you going to be making your decisions today? And then the trick to getting the book right is balancing it between, the serious political heavy hitters, the people that you have to include, the likes of Hitler and Mao and Stalin,
yes.
Captain Obvious's inclusions. And then also to broaden things out to sort of include the full range of life experiences, so there's culture, there's music, Justin Bieber's in there, there's sports.
The Kardashians, thank goodness.
No.
Thank goodness you... Yeah, the Kardashians. I'm surprised
Why,
you didn't.
Tim?
I'm surprised you didn't start off with Kim Kardashian. I know you started with Idi Amin, and you had to make apologies about that. But Kardashian, I think she's the number one.
Well, we went alphabetically, so we were slightly constrained there. But Kardashian she was right up there. Although, ironically, we do say that Kim Kardashian is only the 4th worst Kim in the book, because the entry after her is the Kims of Korea. We actually cover all 3 of them.
Brilliant. Simon.
Yeah, well, it's actually, you've in part answered my question, but I wanted to know what the qualifying criteria were to get into the book.
Is it all the people that you and Alex don't like?
So we've placed an arbitrary cutoff line of the 20th century. So it wasn't, we're not going back to biblical times here. It's 20th century and onwards. So that the oldest or the earliest born entries are, I think, King Leopold II and Cecil John Rhodes. So we've got the African colonizers up front. But we found ourselves including more recent characters because they seem to be more relevant, and history these days seems to be happening, more recently, more now. You look at Zimbabwe last week, and you look at it today, and it's 2 different countries because history has literally just happened there. And so there was this arbitrary or predefined 20th century onwards, and then, as I say, we wanted this balance, and it needed to be a balance between history and war and also culture and what we think about on a day-to-day basis. So there's a lot of social media stuff in there, for instance. But we also wanted it to be politically balanced. It's a book for the silent, sensible majority in an age when there's all sorts of extreme thinking. So if you think that that, for instance, both Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump are terrible people, then this book is for you.
Well, I was going to sit there and say, I mean, you've only gone with 50. Who like was at 51 and 52? Was it Hillary and Donald, or was Robert up there as well, Mr. Mugabe?
Okay, so Hillary and Donald and Bill actually are all in the book. It was a process probably more of exclusion than inclusion. There are, I think our list went into there's definitely over 100 of long list contenders for the book.
Yeah.
And, there are people like Richard Nixon and Castro and Kanye West who haven't made the final cut. And if we do a second book after this, if it does relatively well internationally and locally, we might be interested in doing a second book. And I promise you, we've got 20 people who automatically go straight in.
I hear you. There'll be a lot of people who are Facebook fans who might be troubled the fact that you chose Mark Zuckerberg.
Yes, okay, so Zuckerberg's in for a couple of reasons. It's nice to end on a Z so that we can say A to Z, Idi Amin to Mark Zuckerberg.
Yeah.
But a little bit more seriously, so when we started the Zuckerberg entry, it was more about the self-involvement and narcissism of social media that he's effectively started, the daddy of social media. And so there's like a personal element of it that we wanted to put across, that kind of daily annoyance of somebody you vaguely know telling everybody on the world how much they love their wife or whatever it may be. But looking into it and doing the research on Facebook was quite an interesting one, and it revealed Zuckerberg to be one of the worst people in the book, effectively. And the danger of Facebook these days is enormous. The key to understanding Facebook is realizing that the algorithm that presents you with your information on it every time you log into Facebook is probably the most important algorithm, most important piece of computer code ever invented, because it's turned Facebook into a publisher, although it doesn't acknowledge this, and it gives 2 billion people their understanding of the world, and it is a completely skewed, biased understanding of the world. It basically keeps everybody in their echo chambers. All you're doing is being engaged on Facebook. You're not getting sort of the truth. You're not getting a balanced position of how the world operates, and it basically amplifies all your worst prejudices. So that's the reality of Facebook, I'm afraid, everybody.
Oh, wow. There we go.
In researching these people and putting the book together, did you learn stuff that you didn't know before? Any interesting facts that stood out for you?
Absolutely. I learned loads of things that I didn't know before. It's quite funny. I look at some of the entries that we've put in and I think, geez, there's quite a lot of information in here. I wonder if you researched this book. And then I realized that it was Alex and myself. To answer your question, I would say the most interesting fact that I came across in putting together the book was the date of when the world nearly ended, which was 27 October 1962, and that was the day that World War III nearly started, but actually didn't, and the incident of which I'm talking took place under the Caribbean Sea in a Russian submarine, and there were 3 Russian officers on board debating whether or not to fire a nuclear-tipped torpedo at an American warship, and 2 of them were going for it, which would have led directly to World War III, and the commanding officer, who was actually the same rank as one of the other officers, but he just happened to be technically in command, said no. So yes, everyone, 27 October 1962, the world nearly ended.
Okay. Sure. Unbelievable stuff. Tim, a couple of things. Why did you make the font so damn small?
The font's not small. It's at perfect legible size, and it's in a wonderfully readable font. But I guess if you wanted it bigger, it's probably because we jammed in quite a lot of information, I have to say. Yeah,
there's a tremendous amount of information. Just, Tim, for people who may be sitting and going, what are these books? I've never heard of them before. I remember the first one, Is It Just Me or Is Everything KAK? That was the first, is that correct?
Well, that was a different series, but it was my first book as an author. So that one is, that's over 10 years ago now. I think it was 10 years. I think it came out 2007. But the 50 People books in South Africa, so 50 People Who Stuffed Up South Africa, came out in late 2010, and it was actually one of the top-selling trade titles of 2011.
Okay.
I can sort of get that little boast in. And it does help that Zapiro is doing the cartoons, and they're all cartoons from his archive. And I think South African readers see Zapiro's work jumping off the page, and they're suddenly interested. So they pick up the book, and it just so happened that they liked 50 People Who Stuffed Up South Africa. It did sell quite well in the end. And then we did that second book, 50 Flippin' Brilliant South Africans, because a lot of people said, you can't do the negative without the positive. We need some yin and yang here. Mm-hmm. And of course, it didn't sell. It also sold very well, but not nearly as well as the first book. So we're back to Stuffer Uppers, and we're taking it to the build stage.
Well, I mean, just to go through some of the, as you say, it goes the A to Z. People, for example, that are in here, just a few. Lance Armstrong, besides the obvious, I mean, Adolf Hitler's going to be in there, Osama's going to be in there.
Yes.
But besides the obvious, let's just give a few. Lance Armstrong, Justin Bieber, Nick Bollettieri. For those who don't know, of course, is the American tennis coach. The
You
course.
want to explain why he's in, Sasha?
Well, yeah, you want to give it just a little brief synopsis as to why he's in with the
Okay, so Nick Bollettieri was actually originally under Monica Seles. So his entry is probably a little bit more about Monica Seles and Maria Sharapova than it is about Nick Bollettieri. So you can probably work it out from there. It's about screeching in tennis and the unwatchability of certain tennis games in the modern era, shall we put it that way.
Yeah, there we go. You've got people like Joseph Hazelwood, who was the captain of the Exxon Valdez. You remember that?
Yes.
O.J. Simpson's in there. Steven Spielberg's in there. The great thing is, you sit there and go, why would Steven Spielberg be in there? And then you go and read about it.
We've included. It doesn't mean we don't like you if you're in the book. We just think that you've done something to stuff up the world in a terrible way.
Yeah.
Spielberg, I frankly love a lot of his movies, but he's also the guy who started the big summer blockbuster, which started pretty well. That was Jaws, 1977. I could be wrong, but it's mid-70s. And out of Jaws, you eventually have the Transformers movies. So I know we're kind of giving away our age here, and we've become grumpy old sort of 40-year-olds with children, but blockbusters are clearly made for teenagers, and this is upsetting. We should have better movies on the big screen, and Steven Spielberg is the reason why we don't.
Yeah. Tim, I mean, listen, the wonderful thing is it comes out now. It's a great purchase for Christmas as well as just any kind of reading, but I think you're going to get a lot of fans on this one as well.
I hope so. Thank you very much, Sasha.
Well, there we go, and I suppose available everywhere. Is that correct?
Yes, available in all good bookstores, in exclusives, on Take-A-Lot, in Wordsworth, CNA. It's out and about.
Is it
There's
also
a website if you want to go check out the website. Do you mind if I get that one out there, Sasha? It's 50peoplewho.com.
50peoplewho.com. Okay, and then also, is it also available on Kindle as a digital download?
Yes, the international, that's slightly tricky. That's the international version that you're looking for, and that's 50 People Who Messed Up the World.
Okay.
And that's available on Kindle, yeah.
All right, brilliant. Tim, it's always great to catch up with you. Congratulations. It really is wonderful. I'm looking forward to reading it, the rest of it over my time off. I wish you great success, and hopefully we'll just continue with more and more as the years go on.
Yeah, Sasha, thank you very much for having me. Hey, I appreciate it.
All right, my friend. Take it easy. Ciao. There we go.
Cheers.
Tim Richman, who's the co-author with Alexander Parker of 50 People Who Stuffed Up the World. Have you got this book? Andy, you got it?
I haven't
I've
yet.
seen it, and I've been dying to buy it, so I'm going to get
Do
one.
yourself a favor, because as we got and heard from Tim as well, the research is incredible.
Yeah.
It's not just sort of their little take on these are the people who they believe stuffed up. They give you a full history of what these people actually did. It's very, very good. Nice one. Go check it out.
Joburg's hottest breakfast show.
Sasha Martinengo, Andy Levy, John Wallen, Simon Hill.
Weekdays from 6 to 9.
Hot 91.9.